Hi, this is my RF Totem build, using Righteous Fire and a Soul Mantle to get the free 7 link. And here's the test run, and I'll explain the mechanics of the build afterwards.
The temptations of paradise draws forth the good and the bad alike.
Ah, crap. That's interesting.
An end undone. No matter.
Oh, I didn't realize it had already a bunch of damage to him.
One more lost foe. Insignificant.
Alright, well that's the test run. It's a tier 13, so I mean it's not exactly low-end content. It's cleared up pretty easily. It was actually a pretty tanky character. I mean, I was just going into packs and just not even having to care. So, talking about the build, I know there's another guy who does a lot of RF stuff that's been on the Reddit recently, but I do mine a little differently than him. So, obviously, staple, using Doryanis Catalyst. You Soul Mantle and Lionizer Morse for the extra defense. I use the Hikazaru combination with the Soul Mantle and one of those self-flagellation jewels to get a good increase to damage, since our totems don't really have a lot of good ways to get damage. And to circumvent these 3 slots, there's not really much you could replace to get that kind of damage increase. Also the upside is that it makes us immune to curses. Moving from that, we use the Calm's Roots because stun is an issue, as well as the fact that we can move around pretty fast with shield charge anyway, and with our Quicksilver Flask up, we don't really notice the fact that we're pretty slow. Also, to overcome the fact that we're replacing our rings in our chest, we gotta get the extra life somewhere, so that's why I use both the Combs Root and Line Eyes, because they both have ridiculously high life rolls now. I also basically have to get a crap ton of resists and life on my belt, gloves, and an amulet. I get some Chaos Resonant on this helmet, and the reason I use this is because the percent life is pretty comparable to a level, or an 80% 80 plus maximum life helmet. But really I went for the 100% or the 100 life per second regen, because this build, well, with full endurance charges up, it's a lot higher than this. It's like 700 something, but we get a really high life regen pool without really investing much into life regen. I mean, as you can see, my tree doesn't really go into life regen at all, except for Warrior's Blood and this node. So a lot of that's just from the fact that we have 2 Kikanzarus, which give 180 life regen per second in total. On top of this, which is another 280, makes it 280, and then a bunch of other stuff with endurance charges and just the natural stuff you get from the Ascendancy. Besides that, the thing that's nice about this build is we can get a bunch of life. I think my tree ends with about 200% increased life, and we also take advantage of Mind Over Matter. Now this is where my build's a lot more different from the other guy. He goes down here and gets Blood Magic, and his life pool is roughly about 500 life more than me, but I also have an 1,007, or basically 1.7k additional HP on top of that. And if for one-shot mechanics, that's how much HP I have. But for regular stuff, I have a 30% reduced damage, basically all the time. We use Fortify on our shield charge to also get extra mitigation on top of the natural endurance charge generation we get from Sun's Light with our totems, because our totems burn enemies down to the ground, which is always nice. The other jewel sockets, we go and get this because of the extra resists. It helps us fix our resists. Another thing that's nice about Kikanzarus is you don't have to cap your resists at the same level you would on a normal build, because your curses are basically 80% less hurtful, so you can really stack them up and not really notice a difference in your survivability, which is why obviously you use the self-flagellation jewel to get some free damage. But on your other jewel sockets, you want to get stuff like this: totem life, area damage, and resistances to basically eventually get to using doryanis. Before you can get all these, before you get the resist jewels and stuff, you're going to have to use, say, Aurumvorax to fix your resistances. But once you get this, it's a really big damage increase. For Flasks, we don't get any of these Flask nodes because of this. Pretty much solves our life problem, and we have so much life regen and a reasonable amount of chaos resistance. We don't notice this degen. Like if I were to go into the map, and this is without endurance charges, so there's even more regen on top of this. For you to use that, it doesn't move our health out at all. So it's a really nice flask for life. Nothing else in the game can really compare to this for life. This is comparable, but I use this just to get a bunch of really big life regen. In case of sticky situations where I use this and I start to degen because something else is hitting me, I use that to fix that problem. Mana flasks is kind of the only issue I have with this build. I died yesterday to a shocked ground in a maze map with lightning bearers, because this is obviously a hardcore character, and this would not cut it in terms of getting my mana regen back up to mitigate the damage. I basically got killed really fast, so shocked ground sucks. Other stuff is just move at Flasks and the Basalt Flask. This is for your bleed removal since you can't get it here, and you just want to go for ample of adrenaline. You don't really worry about elemental status ailments because freeze is fixed by our boots, and we have such a high effective HP pool that shocking doesn't really happen, except obviously when stuff like bears happens. But everything else is kind of not a problem. Ignites don't burn us because we have such a higher life regen. Basically, we're at RF levels of life regen. But yeah, this character is meant for hardcore. I mean, I got to level 90. I progressed through a lot of in-game content pretty effectively. I mean, I didn't really have any issues until the bears happened, and that was just kind of a perfect storm of shit. But besides that, this build can pretty much do anything. I haven't tested endgame bosses yet. Since I died, I might as well just try Gaziri and all that. But here's another snapshot of the build. We just go for life, get this totem life, get that wheel, and then we just start getting all the jewel sockets we can, all the totem life we can, and then just grabbing the really good burning nodes. And then the rest is just jewel socketed stuff like this. And yeah, so we're able to get a lot of life, get super tanky, and use the new Mind Over Matter. When I looked at that guy's build, he talked about Mind Over Matter and said that you can't really get a lot of mana with it. Well, I don't have any mana on my gear at all. Well, there, but that's it. Everything else doesn't have anything on it. So without anything, I have 1700 mana, just these nodes and this mana cluster and life hybrid cluster here, and then just get a bunch of the life mana regen stuff, and these also give a bunch of mana regen. So yeah, it's actually a pretty tanky build. It's very much hardcore viable. I would say this is probably the tankiest build I've ever played for hardcore. But besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll probably be doing boss kills sometime later.